It was originally a storeroom for materials during the construction of the canal. It was then shortly used as a toll booth. Thomas Telford, among the creations of his travel systems, liked to collect payment from those who were looking to use them, which is fair enough. And then in the mid-1800s, it was converted into a lighthouse. Now, as we approach, you will see that it does not have the typical height you would expect of a lighthouse, but don't bully it, it's not its fault, it's short. And it does not have the typical beacon you would expect of your average lighthouse either. It was actually only a single paraffin lamp that would burn in the top bedroom window where the lighthouse keeper would sleep. Now, if you've ever spent time around paraffin, it's an extremely unpleasant experience. So after many months of complaining, the lighthouse keeper managed to wear down the canal engineers, and they eventually installed a little chimney above the top bedroom window, which you will see still protruding from the window to this day. It used this paraffin lamp for over 160 years, and then was eventually replaced by a small metal spire on the front garden, which now uses an electronic beacon. The Bona Lighthouse and that chimney protruding from the top window are protected landmarks, so no matter what happens inside the building, the outside structure and the chimney must remain. Bona Lighthouse used to be a holiday rental home, but was recently purchased and is now a private residence. And this is it, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. We are now officially on the world famous, the legendary Loch Ness. You are all here. Welcome to the elite club that can say they have sailed on these legendary waters. Enjoy it, soak it in. It's what you came for. But don't soak it in for too long, because if you want to see one of the most beautiful... In a story I'll tell you shortly about the Wellington bomber, this is where it was raised to the surface. It was not brought ashore here, but it was where, on that lay-by, is where almost 1,000 people gathered for a full week to watch the effort unfold to raise the Wellington bomber back to the surface. So again, I will still give you your peace and quiet. As we get further along, I'll tell this story. So when I talk about the Wellington lay-by, it's just that off to the right-hand side. Woo!
I can't see.
14th centuries that it was caught up in intense political struggle. It changed hands between the Scots and the English many times, and it was during the Scottish Wars of Independence. It was these wars that made names like William Wallace and Robert the Bruce the legends that they are today, true Scottish heroes. In the 1300s, Robert the Bruce did help to recapture the castle from the English, and from then on it stood as a symbol of Highland resistance, and it did stay in Scottish hands for a good long time. But it was not only involved in outsider conflict, it was also caught up in several local clan warfares. Most notably, in the 1500s, the Clan Grant was tasked with holding the castle against the often raiding MacDonalds, also known as the Lords of the Isles. Now, when the MacDonalds would show up to Urquhart Castle, they would throw things like Big Macs and quarter pounders over the walls. That's such a bad joke, I'm sorry. But no, the things they would throw were much less friendly, usually very fiery in nature and with ill intent in mind. So when the MacDonalds would visit the castle, it would typically end in large fires, fierce battles and extensive looting. But the most iconic moment in its history would have to come in 1692. This is during the Jacobite uprisings once again, where the English held the castle and the Jacobites, the Scots, they wanted it back. The English knew the Scots were coming and that they probably didn't stand much of a chance against this marauding group. So they had a trick up their sleeve. As the Scots approached, the English retreated from the castle, and as soon as the Scots had taken it back, they blew it up. And this was to stop the Jacobites using it against them again in the future. It effectively ended the life of Urquhart Castle as a military stronghold, leaving it in ruins but not in silence. Now today it is one of the most visited castles in all of Scotland, only being beaten out by Edinburgh and Stirling. And that is quite an achievement because we have an awful lot of castles in Scotland. And it's not hard to see why it's so popular. It's haunting, it's heroic, and it's absolutely beautiful. If you are the type of person that likes imagining what black smoke rising from the tower, bagpipes bellowing down the loch, and war cries in the middle of the night, this is truly the place your Outlander and Game of Thrones fantasies can come alive. And as I mentioned at the beginning, this is the #1 Nessie spotting location, so do be ready just in case. Okay. So I've heard 10 million. Any other suggestions? 800,000. Another person did shout it out, but she knows the answer, so I'm not counting that. It is £3 million it cost to construct that. It uses a unique type of wood that I apologise, the name escapes me at the moment, but it does naturally curve like this, which is why it follows that shape. It does not have a single nut, screw, bolt or nail in it. All of it is constructed using traditional carpentry methods, including even wooden pins that hold it all together. It was actually only permitted to be built on the banks of Loch Ness because you cannot get planning permission now, but it was following the original design. Now if you're looking back there, there was a concrete structure at the bottom. Previously that was all that was there, but because they used the original planning permission and the original design of the boathouse that lay on that land originally, they were allowed to recreate it. Apparently there's a sauna and a hot tub up in the top area of that boathouse, but I'll never know, it's too rich for my blood unfortunately. But it did cost a whopping $3 million to construct. It didn't even come with a boat. So for those that were interested in that Wellington bomber story, as I said, it was raised back beside that lay-by, and then it was actually brought ashore just to the left-hand side here, where there's a break in the bushes and you see that fencing. Right there is where it was actually brought back onto the land. And then also right from here at Bona Lighthouse all the way down to the dock, just behind them bushes there is a pathway that takes you all the way down. Now today it's just a beautiful scenic walk for nature lovers and dog walkers, but its original purpose was much more significant. Now in the early 1800s there was no diesel power boats, very few steam engines made their way along here. It was typically your sailboats. So what they would do is, as they transitioned from Loch Ness into the canal, they would then be hitched up to several horses on this pathway, and the horses would then pull the boats down to the dock where we began. So it was sheer manpower to get the canal constructed and then horsepower to keep it functioning. And actually these yellow bushes that are starting to die off a bit now, they are called gorse. That's G-O-R-S-E, also known some places as whin, W-H-I-N. These are a very, very hardy bush. You'll probably see them all across the Highlands and Scotland as a whole for that fact. Pretty much the only thing these things cannot survive is a flamethrower. They'll pretty much survive in any conditions you put them in, from terrible soil, wind, rain, snow, sunlight. They'll just thrive in all of it, which is why it's so common in the Highlands. But it was specifically planted along the banks of the canal here because it also has deep and expansive root systems. Yeah, well, I've got yous all excited for no reason. As soon as I seen him, he decided that he was flying away, so now he's not there. But that is, once again, the very beginning of the River Ness. That is the river that flows straight through the middle of Inverness city centre. And for those of you that aren't aware as well, Inver and Aber actually mean the mouth of. So Inverness just means the mouth of Ness, which is this river here. Aberdeen is the same, the mouth of Dean for the River Dean. And then it's the same for Invergary, Aberfeldy, all of these places. They are all close by to bodies of water, and it is this Inver and Aber that mean the mouth of.
Das Wasser leveln kann.